Hello everyone, we're returning to the budget constraint, which is what we did in the last unit. And our equation was price of x times x plus price of y times y equal to income. And the basic idea is very simple. However much you buy of x multiplied by the price of x, that's how much you pay for it, plus however much you buy of y times the price of y, that's how much you pay for it. The sum of these should be your income or less, right? So this is as much as you can do, and we developed the budget constraint in the last unit. I want to say a few more things about what's going on here. The first thing to remember is that this is because you are a consumer and you are a very small portion of the market. So you are a price taker. This is not going to work if you are buying labor, if you are buying stocks and shares and you're a billionaire and you account for 30% of the market, things like that, right? All kinds of situations where you may not be a price taker, but ordinary everyday buying, milk, transport, which is what we do and what our experiences are, usually you're not navigating the price, you are a price taker. So you take the price, you've got an income, and then price of milk times milk plus price of transport times transport, got to be less than your income or equal to it, right? So that's the budget constraint we developed in the last unit. Now we are going to adjust this and you're going to learn some things. So a reminder that your budget constraint actually looked like your production possibility frontier. The PPF, where you had opportunity costs, where you said, what can I acquire, things like that. And we're going to use that intuition to learn a bit more about what's happening with the budget constraint. So the budget constraint, using our data from our previous example, $2 per rice, $4 per transport, income of 500. You could buy 500 rice, no transport. Or you could buy 250 transport, no rice, right? So the first thing to realize is your budget constraint looks like your PPF, what we did early in this quarter. So when you start thinking of the cost of transport, don't just think of dollars. And you're going to understand why in a minute. Think in terms of how much rice you give up. Conversely, when you think of the cost of rice, think in terms of the transport you give up, right? So think in terms of opportunity cost. Don't just think in terms of dollar prices. A few things. The budget constraint is like the PPF. You may wish to acquire lots of rice and lots of transport out there. You can't attain it. It's outside your budget constraint unless your income goes up or prices reduce in some way. You could purchase down there. We used to call this unemployment when we talked about the whole economy. But from the perspective of a single individual, if you buy below your budget constraint, it means you are not spending all your income. That's what it means. This is what you could buy with your income. You're not spending all your income. You're buying below your income. You will end up with savings. And usually you will take these savings, put it into your bank account, put it into your retirement funds, put it into financial markets. So when it comes to the theory of the consumer, we have to remember that what we do when we talk about everybody put together, which is the PPF for an economy, is very different than what we say when we're talking about one individual. So perspective is everything in this graph. In this perspective, just one person, just one consumer, if they are saving, it's going to go into financial markets. When you come to input markets, and especially when you come to macroeconomics, where we ask the question, what happens when people do savings? When people don't spend all of their income? We're going to get very interesting answers. But for now, we're going to assume that if people save, then we are talking about them making a proactive decision for future consumption against current consumption. So I would end up actually doing a PPF where I say future consumption, current consumption. Future healthcare, current rent, right? And we're going to assume that people are making those decisions. The technical details of this are beyond the level of this class. But, you know, it's a really important question about whether we treat this from the individual perspective as people just not consuming. Like, what happens if there is a recession and I try and give people tax breaks and bonuses and they just don't spend the money? They put in their bank account. Will that stimulus check work? Will it not? This is at the center of macro. So you have to take a whole new course. We're going to set it aside for now, and we're going to assume that in general, people maximize their utility, right? So I'll do more with that in a minute. But the budget constraint, remember, is like your PPF. It's like, what can I acquire given prices, given my income? Which is like the PPF. What can I obtain given resources, income, given productivity, prices? What can I acquire? What can I not, right? What's interesting is the budget constraint for an individual is usually a straight line. Because the individual is a price taker. So when I did the PPF for the whole economy, I kept drawing this curve that bowed out, and I kept talking about laws of costs. But that is for the whole economy. This budget constraint is for one individual. And from my individual perspective, it's a straight line. So the first thing I want to remind you is that we are storytellers. We are visual storytellers. And when you tell a story, you want to remember from whose perspective the story is told. Right now, in the theory of the consumer, we're doing it from the individual consumer. This is going to be even more important when we come to the theory of the firm, where we do it from the perspective of one firm. So you have to keep in mind whose perspective are you showing when you tell the story in a graph. And in this case, this is the individual consumer. This is what they look like.